The galaxy expected humans to beg. They expected excuses. They expected noise. Instead, humanity arrived, and said nothing. That silence terrified the oldest civilizations in the stars. The summons reached Earth without sound. No alarm. No explosion. No invasion fleet. Just a silver object appearing above the Pacific Ocean, hovering calmly while satellites failed and radios went silent around it. The object unfolded itself like a mechanical flower. Light bent around it. Gravity seemed unsure how to behave near it. Then a message appeared, not spoken, not transmitted, but understood. You are observed. You are evaluated. You are summoned. Within minutes, every major government on Earth had received the same meaning inside their minds. Coordinates followed. Not a request. A notice. Humanity had officially been noticed. Dr. Aaron Hale watched the live feeds from the Global Response Center in Geneva. He was not a politician. He was not military. He was a systems theorist, a man whose entire career had been spent studying how large groups behave under pressure. And right now, all of humanity was under pressure. They didn't say hello, someone muttered behind him. They didn't threaten us either, Aaron replied quietly. That worried him more. 3 weeks later, humanity stood before the Galactic Council. The council chamber was not a room. It was a void shaped into purpose. Platforms floated at different heights, each holding representatives of species older than human civilization itself. Some glowed. Some hissed. Some did not appear solid at all. At the center hovered the human delegation, 12 individuals on a simple platform of steel and carbon composite. Their ship had been laughed at. Their technology dismissed as functional but quaint. Their species labeled late emergence, low impact. The laughter had not stopped since. High Arbiter Threxial of the Vela Dominion leaned forward. His kind had ruled star systems before humans discovered fire. His voice carried effortlessly through the chamber. So, he said, amusement thick in his tone, this is humanity. Ripples of mockery followed. Clicks. Harmonic vibrations. Color shifts that translated as amusement. Aaron stood still. Beside him, Ambassador Lian Zhao kept her hands folded. Calm. Controlled. Human. You have traveled far, Threxial continued. Using technology we abandoned thousands of cycles ago. More laughter. You request recognition. Status. Protection under Concord law. He tilted his elongated head. Tell us, humans, what do you offer that the galaxy has not already consumed and discarded? The chamber waited. This was the moment for speeches. For displays. For desperate ambition. Aaron felt every instinct screaming to respond. Ambassador Zhao did not speak. None of the humans did. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. Whispers began. Translators flickered, uncertain if communication had failed. Threxial frowned. Is there a malfunction? No response. Speak, commanded a crystalline entity from the upper tiers. Still nothing. Aaron could feel it now, the discomfort spreading. Silence was not expected. Silence was uncontrolled. Are the humans incapable of response? Someone asked. Aaron lifted his eyes, but not his voice. The silence continued. Not empty. Not confused. Chosen. For the first time, the chamber's laughter stopped completely. Minutes passed. Council systems detected no interference. No coercion. No suppression fields. The humans were simply not speaking. High Arbiter Threxial leaned back slowly. Interesting, he said, his tone no longer amused. You were mocked, he continued. Do you not feel insult? No answer. You are judged inferior, he pressed. Does this not anger you? Still nothing. Something shifted. Older species remembered something buried in ancient memory. Predators were loud when confident. Civilizations boasted when weak. But silence. Silence came before storms. End this demonstration, demanded a member from the upper arc. This proves nothing. Threxiel raised a clawed limb. No, he said softly. It proves something I do not yet understand. He leaned forward again, eyes narrowing. Humans, he said carefully, this council commands fleets that erase stars. We end species with votes. You stand here unarmed and insignificant. The chamber held its breath. Why are you silent? At last, Ambassador Zhao spoke. Just 3 words. We are listening. The effect was immediate. No roar. No outrage. Just fear. Because listeners learned. And learners adapted. And humanity had always been very good at adapting. Far from the council chamber, across human space, something began to move. Not fleets. Not weapons. People. Signals passed quietly. Not orders. Choices. On Earth, factories slowed. On Mars, shipyards paused mid-construction. On distant colonies, individuals stopped what they were doing and looked at the stars. They did not cheer. They did not shout. They prepared. Because the silence was not the message. It was the warning. And the galaxy had only just begun to notice. The council chamber stayed quiet after Ambassador Zhao's 3 words. We are listening. To many species, that sounded harmless. To the oldest ones, it sounded like a threat wrapped in calm. High Arbiter Threxiel watched the humans as if they were unfamiliar tools, simple on the surface, dangerous when misused. You may listen, he said at last, voice smooth again, but listening does not earn standing. Your request is denied. You will be observed from a distance for 500 cycles. A low hum of approval traveled through the platforms. 500 years. To the council, that was polite. To humans, it was a lifetime stacked upon lifetimes. Ambassador Zhao did not argue. She didn't plead. She didn't protest. She simply nodded once. Aaron Hale felt something tighten in his chest. The instinct to fight for respect was strong. But he understood the plan. Humanity was not here to win a debate. Humanity was here to change the rules. Threxiel lifted a thin, jointed finger. Before you depart, he said, we will ask one final question. Consider it curiosity. The chamber leaned in. What is your species' greatest strength? The translators prepared for pride. For boasting. For some desperate claim of genius. Ambassador Zhao looked around the chamber. She met the eyes of beings who lived for thousands of years and feared death as an idea, not a reality. Then she answered. Our greatest strength, she said, is that we can agree to do the impossible, together, without being forced. The chamber reacted with scattered laughter. A being of shifting smoke released a ripple that translated as naive confidence. A metallic arthropod clicked in irritation. Threxiel smiled with a softness that wasn't kind. You are dismissed. The human delegation was escorted away through corridors that felt like the inside of a giant machine. Everything in the Citadel of Voices was built for permanence. The walls carried marks of time, repairs layered on repairs, upgrades stitched into old systems like scars. Aaron noticed something else too. No one walked quickly. The Citadel was full of power, but not urgency. Civilizations that believed they had already won didn't rush. 500 years, whispered Lieutenant Sanar Rafik, the security lead. They think that's merciful. They think time is their weapon, Aaron replied. Ambassador Zhao kept walking, expression unreadable. They think time belongs to them, she said quietly. That's their mistake. When they reached the assigned human quarters, the escort left without ceremony. The doors sealed. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Zhao exhaled slowly, like she had been holding her breath since Earth. They don't know, she said. Sanar crossed her arms. Know what? Zhao turned to Aaron. Doctor. Aaron opened a small device no bigger than his palm. It looked unimpressive beside the Citadel's impossible architecture. But it was human-made. And inside it, a quantum link shimmered with tight, stable probability. They don't know, Aaron said, that we've been listening for longer than they think. He activated the device. A symbol appeared, simple, familiar. Earth Response Network. Online. Then another. Mars. Online. Lunar. Online. Colony rings. Online. More and more, like stars turning on. The room filled with quiet acknowledgements as humans realized what they were seeing. Zhao looked at them all. The council expects a speech, she said. A show. A trick. She placed both hands on the table and leaned forward. We are going to give them something they cannot understand until it's already around them. Sanar frowned. What are we actually doing? We don't have fleets like theirs. No, Zhao said. We have something else. Aaron tapped the device, and a 3D projection formed above the table, an outline of the Citadel of Voices and its surrounding traffic patterns. He highlighted thin lines, routes of ships entering and leaving, supply corridors, cargo bays, communications relays. We mapped their systems, he said. Everything they allowed us to observe. Everything they assumed was harmless. One of the delegates, Engineer Matteo Klein, leaned closer. You're saying, we can influence this place? Aaron shook his head once. Not by force. He pointed at the busiest docking arcs. They're stable because no one disrupts them, he said. Every species here follows protocol. They obey lanes, schedules, permissions. He let the words hang. Then he added, humans don't break rules because we're reckless. Humans break rules when rules are used to trap us. Zhao nodded. We are invoking the trial of standing. The room went still. Sanar blinked. That's an ancient clause. Is it even real? It's real, Zhao said. And yes, we can invoke it. We already did. Matteo's mouth fell open. When? Zhao's eyes were steady. When I spoke in the chamber. The phrase, we are listening, was not just a statement. It was a legal trigger, an old Concord phrase tied to Article 7. Aaron clicked the device again. A line of translated text appeared. Article 7. Trial of standing, action in place of assessment. Under it. Another. Status. Invoked. Timer. 3 rotations. Sanar let out a short laugh. So we actually forced their hand. Yes, Zhao said. They will have to grant us a demonstration slot in 3 rotations. Matteo rubbed his forehead. 3 rotations. That's, what? 3 days. Roughly, Aaron said. And what do we show them? Matteo asked. We can't outgun them. We can't outshine them. Zhao's expression hardened. We show them the one thing they have forgotten, she said. What it feels like when something they can't control begins to move. On Earth, the same quiet movement spread through every layer of society. No dramatic broadcasts. No panic. Just a message, short and strange, circulating through secure channels and then through public ones. The silence is active. You are needed. Stand. Do not shout. People didn't fully understand. But humans had lived through enough crises to recognize a call to unity. In Lagos, a shipyard manager paused production on luxury orbital platforms and redirected the materials toward transport hulls. In Mumbai, engineers rewrote navigation algorithms to squeeze extra range out of aging drives. In Sao Paulo, supply drones were reprogrammed to prioritize medical units and food packs for travelers. Governments that normally fought each other shared launch windows and fuel reserves like they belonged to one body. Not because they were ordered to. Because, for once, it made sense. A young teacher on Luna, Priya Nandakamo, watched the message on her screen and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Her students looked up at her. Miss, are we going to war? Priya thought carefully. No, she said. We're going to be seen. 3 days was not enough time for a normal civilization to mobilize across star systems. But humans didn't operate like normal civilizations. Humans operated like wildfire. 1,000 independent choices moving toward one direction created something bigger than any single command. Cargo ships that had never carried passengers were refitted with temporary life support packs. Mining vessels turned their holds into standing chambers. Even private yachts and research cruisers joined the gathering, not for glory, but because no one wanted to be absent from the moment humanity first met the galaxy's judgment. Across 17 worlds, millions volunteered. Not soldiers. Not only politicians. Farmers. Students. Nurses. Dock workers. Parents. People whose only shared trait was being human. They did not come to scream at the council. They came to stand in silence. Because that silence was unity made visible. And unity was something the Concord had never truly seen. Back in the Citadel, the council began to argue. Some species demanded the trial be denied. Some demanded the humans be removed from the Citadel entirely. Threxiel listened to them all with a cold, thoughtful stare. "They are too small," said the crystal delegate. "We waste attention." "Still," murmured an ancient machine mind from a shadowed platform, "small things become problems when they learn patterns." Threxiel's eyes narrowed. He replayed the memory of Ambassador Zhao's calm face. He replayed the long, controlled silence. Then those words again. "We are listening." To Threxiel, it sounded less like humility, and more like preparation. He turned to the council's archivist, a floating entity made of layered rings. "When was the trial of standing last used?" he asked. The archivist's rings vibrated. 6,200 cycles ago. "And who invoked it?" A pause, as if the archives didn't like remembering. "The Primarchs." Threxiel felt something unfamiliar crawl along his spine. The Primarchs were a species that had vanished after reshaping the early Concord. They left behind laws, warnings, and technologies no one could replicate. They were myth now. Yet the humans had found the clause. They had used it. Not by accident. By reading. By listening. Threxiel stared down at the human quarters displayed on his console. "They are doing something," he whispered, though no one asked. Far away, in a docking bay on the outer ring of the Citadel, sensors began to record something unusual. A ship arrived. Small. Ugly. Human. Then another. Then 10. Then 100. The traffic controllers assumed it was normal. Because everything had always been normal. Until it wasn't. In the human quarters, Aaron watched the incoming signals light up on his device like a storm map. "First wave is arriving," he said. Sonar peered at the projection. "That's not a wave. That's a flood." Zhao nodded once. "Good," she said. Mateo swallowed. "How many are coming?" Aaron checked the live count. His eyes widened slightly. "At current velocity," he said, "within 12 hours, we'll have over 2 million humans in orbit around the Citadel." Silence filled the room again, this time not a tactic, but awe. 2 million people. Not commanded. Not forced. Chosen. Zhao looked at each of them. "Remember," she said, voice low and sharp, "this is not a protest. This is not a threat." She pointed toward the ceiling, toward the council chamber above, where ancient beings believed themselves untouchable. "This is a mirror," she said. "We are going to show them what they lost, when they traded trust for control." Aaron felt his pulse steady. He understood now. The demonstration would not be a weapon. It would be a message written in bodies and discipline. A civilization saying, "We can act as one without chains." And to the Concord, built on laws, fear, and enforced order, that would feel like the most dangerous power of all. When the third rotation arrived, the council chamber prepared for entertainment. They expected clumsy human displays. Primitive art. Maybe a speech. What they did not expect was the sound of nothing. Because the humans were coming. And they were bringing the silence with them. The council chamber had hosted wars without violence. Empires had collapsed there, not by fire, but by votes. Entire species had lost protection, trade rights, even the right to exist among the stars, decided in calm voices and careful language. The chamber was used to power. It was not used to crowds. When the first human ships docked, the Council's traffic systems flagged them as minor anomalies. When the 10th docking request came in, operators adjusted schedules. When the 1000th arrived, Irritation replaced routine. By the time the numbers crossed 100,000, the citadel of voices began to strain. Docking bays filled beyond intended capacity. Cargo corridors became holding areas. Observation decks, never meant for biological masses, were repurposed on the fly. And through it all, the humans followed instructions. They didn't argue. They didn't rush. They didn't chant. They simply moved, and then stood still. The silence spread. High Arbiter Threxiel stood on his platform as reports streamed into his awareness. Human presence exceeds projected limits. Non-hostile. Fully compliant. No attempts at weapon deployment. No demands. He felt irritation, then confusion. What are they doing? Demanded a crystalline counselor. Are they attempting intimidation through numbers? They are not armed, replied the archivist entity. And they are not behaving aggressively. A machine mind calculated probabilities. This does not match known intimidation models. Threxiel said nothing. He watched the chamber feeds. Humans were being guided into the council sphere in controlled groups. They entered through lower access points, then filled the outer walkways, the ramps, the unused tiers meant for future expansions that never came. They did not look up at the council. They did not look at each other. They stood. And they were quiet. Ambassador Zhao stepped onto the central platform alone. Behind her, the delegation had remained with the others. No symbols of rank. No banners. No flags. Just people. The council chamber was full now, not just of delegates, but of humanity. Millions of eyes. Millions of minds. One shared decision. Threxiel raised a limb. This demonstration exceeds reasonable limits. Zhao inclined her head slightly. We are within the bounds of the trial of standing. The archivist confirmed it. No numerical limits are specified. Murmurs spread. Not laughter this time. Unease. You may begin, Threxiel said. Zhao did not speak. She simply stepped back. That was the moment the council realized something was wrong. Because nothing happened. No projection. No sound. No display. Just humans. Standing. Silent. The translators searched desperately for meaning. They found none because there were no words to translate. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The chamber's atmosphere systems adjusted automatically, responding to stress markers from council members. The silence was not empty. It pressed. A being made of harmonic light flickered erratically. Why do they not proceed? They are proceeding, whispered the machine mind. This is the action. Threxiel felt it then. The weight. Millions of individuals, each capable of movement, speech, violence, choosing restraint. No chemical influence. No neural control. No enforcement fields. Pure choice. This is inefficient, snapped the crystalline counselor. Pointless. Zhao spoke at last, her voice calm and soft, yet carried perfectly. You asked what our strength was. She gestured, not dramatically, but gently, to the humans surrounding them. This is it. The silence deepened. On the far edges of the chamber, council members began to feel something unfamiliar. Exposure. They had built their power on structure. On hierarchy. On systems where obedience was guaranteed by fear or benefit. The Concord worked because no one stepped out of line. Humans had stepped into line, voluntarily. A gas-based entity pulsed in discomfort. They are synchronized without a control signal. That should not be possible, said another. Aaron Hale stood among the millions, heart steady, breath slow. This was not protest. This was proof. He thought of Earth. Of how often humans failed to agree. How often they fought each other over borders, beliefs, histories. And yet, when something mattered enough, they aligned. Not perfectly, but powerfully. A ripple moved through the chamber as more humans arrived, filling even the highest unused platforms. No chaos. No panic. Just more silence. Threxiel scanned the feeds again. He realized something that sent a chill through his exoskeleton. This was not all of them. This was a fraction. How many humans exist? He asked suddenly. The archivist answered after a pause. Approximately 46 billion across controlled territories and independent settlements. Threxiel's jaw tightened. This, he said slowly, is a message. Zhao lifted her hand slightly. The humans did not move. She lowered it. Still nothing. Then she spoke again. You believed we would come here as individuals, she said. As representatives competing for approval. She met Threxiel's gaze. We came as a decision. She let the words settle. We could have shouted, demanded, threatened. Her eyes swept the chamber. But noise is easy. Anyone can make noise. She paused. Silence is harder. The chamber remained frozen. A counselor whispered, "End this." Threxiel did not. He was listening. For the first time in centuries, he was not in control of the room. You think this means unity, said the crystalline delegate, attempting dismissal. Unity fades. Zhao nodded. Yes. It does. She did not deny it. That is why this matters. She gestured again, not upward, but inward. This silence is not permanent. It is chosen. And because it is chosen, it can be chosen again. The implication struck hard. If humans could do this once, they could do it again. For war, for defense, for creation, or for resistance. Deep within the Citadel systems, ancient subroutines began to activate. The trial of standing was not ceremonial. It was diagnostic. Long ago, the Primarchs had designed it to detect a specific trait. Not intelligence. Not strength. Not technology. Volitional cohesion. The ability of a species to act as one without losing individuality. The systems flagged humanity with a symbol not used in thousands of years. Potential peer entity. The archivist trembled. High Arbiter, the system is updating their classification. Threxiel felt his certainty crack. What level? He demanded. The archivist hesitated. Unassigned, it said. Pending council response. The chamber was no longer amused. It was afraid. Zhao took a slow breath. This is our demonstration, she said. We do not ask for protection. Her voice hardened, just slightly. We ask for respect. The silence held for several more long seconds. Then, without warning, one human coughed. It echoed. The sound was small, human, imperfect. And yet, it broke the spell just enough to remind the council of something terrifying. The silence was fragile, which meant it was controlled. Threxiel raised both limbs. The trial is sufficient, he said, voice no longer confident. The council will deliberate. Zhao bowed her head once. The humans did not cheer. They did not move. They waited. Because they had already delivered the message. And now, the galaxy had to decide what to do with it. Behind the calm surface of the Concord, emergency meetings ignited. Some demanded immediate sanctions. Some demanded forced dispersal. Some whispered a word no one had spoken aloud in generations. Primarch-like. Threxiel retreated to his private chamber, mind racing. He understood now. Humanity was not dangerous because of what it had. Humanity was dangerous because of what it could choose to become. And the silence. The silence was only the beginning. The council did not deliberate in public. That alone was unprecedented. For thousands of cycles, every major decision of the Galactic Concord had been debated openly, loudly, with power displayed through words and dominance rituals. Transparency was part of the myth of control. But after the humans stood in silence, the council retreated behind sealed layers of space, law, and fear. And the silence followed them. High Arbiter Threxiel stood alone in his private chamber, surrounded by historical projections that no one had accessed in centuries. The Primarchs. Their records were incomplete. Fragmented. as if someone had deliberately erased parts of them long ago. What remained was troubling. They had not ruled through fleets. They had ruled through alignment. Entire systems had followed them not because they were conquered, but because they made sense. They coordinated without force. They acted with terrifying efficiency, not because they were ordered to, but because they agreed. The Concord had been built after the Primarchs vanished, designed specifically to prevent such unity from ever forming again. Divide authority. Separate species. Control cooperation through law. And now, Threxiel watched recordings of the humans again. Millions of them. Silent. Calm. Not perfect. Not identical. But aligned. This should not exist, he muttered. A chime echoed through the chamber. The archivist appeared, rings rotating faster than usual. The council is divided, it said. Severely. Threxiel did not turn. Options. 3 primary paths, the archivist replied. 1. Deny standing and isolate humanity permanently. 2. Force integration under strict Concord supervision. 3. It hesitated. Recognize humanity as an autonomous peer species. Threxiel closed his eyes. That would destabilize everything. Yes, the archivist agreed. Which is why several members are demanding immediate suppression instead. Threxiel opened his eyes. And the systems. The archivist's rings slowed. The trial of standing diagnostics have propagated across Concord infrastructure. Other species are noticing. Threxiel felt a sharp twist in his core. The demonstration was spreading. In the human sections of the Citadel, the silence finally ended. Not with shouting. With breath. Millions of humans exhaled almost at once as guidance signals dimmed. People Saturday. Leaned. Some cried quietly. Others smiled. Aaron Hale sank against a bulkhead, legs trembling. We did it, someone whispered. No, Aaron said softly. We started it. Ambassador Zhao moved through the crowd, checking faces, offering quiet reassurance. She did not give speeches. She didn't need to. The humans understood. This was no longer about approval. It was about position. Sanar Rafik joined Zhao near a viewport overlooking the council sphere. They're scared, Sanar said. Zhao nodded. As they should be. Sanar hesitated. What if they decide to strike first? Zhao didn't look away from the stars. Then they will prove our point. Elsewhere in the Citadel, other species were talking. Not in council chambers. In whispers. A trade guild representative from the Velkari hegemony watched recordings of the human gathering on a private channel. They didn't threaten anyone, he said slowly. They didn't demand tribute. His counterpart, a being of liquid metal, pulsed uneasily. They didn't need to. Across the Citadel, younger species, those long overshadowed by ancient powers, were paying close attention. If humans could stand like that, what else was possible? The council reconvened 12 hours later. This time, the chamber felt different. Not louder. Smaller. The humans were not present. Their absence was louder than any protest. High Arbiter Threxiel took his place. We will proceed, he said. One final vote. A crystalline councillor spoke first. Humanity is unstable. Their unity is temporary. Granting them peer status invites chaos. A gas entity countered. Suppressing them invites rebellion. A machine mind projected simulations. Probability of long-term conflict increases under isolation scenario by 42%. Another voice cut in. Old. Cold. They resemble the Primarchs. Silence followed that word. Threxiel spoke. The Primarchs vanished, he said. Not because they were defeated, but because no one could control them. He looked around the chamber. Ask yourselves this. Do we want humanity watching us, or standing against us? The vote began. Lights shifted. Fields pulsed. Systems calculated. The result appeared slowly, as if the Concord itself hesitated to accept it. Decision. Conditional peer recognition. Murmurs erupted. Threxial raised a limb. Order. He felt no triumph. Only gravity. Humanity will be granted autonomous status, he announced. Not as a member species. Not as a subject. He paused. But as an observer power. The title had not been used since the Primarchs. They will not be governed by Concord law, he continued. Nor protected by it. They will be respected. The chamber was in shock. And the cost? Demanded the crystalline counselor. Threxial's eyes darkened. The cost, he said, is that we will never again underestimate them. The announcement reached the human quarters minutes later. No cheers. No victory chants. Just a shared stillness, different from before. Heavier. Aaron read the transmission twice. They didn't cage us, he said. But they didn't embrace us either. Zhao nodded. They left us free. Sanar frowned. That's not kindness. No, Zhao agreed. That's fear. She turned to the others. And fear changes behavior. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humanity had not been conquered. Humanity had not begged. Humanity had stood, and been acknowledged. Trade routes adjusted. Diplomatic models recalculated. Ancient species began reviewing their own unity, finding it lacking. And among younger civilizations, a dangerous idea began to form. If humans could do it, why not them? Threxial stood once more in his private chamber, watching a final recording. Ambassador Zhao. Silent. Steady. We are listening. He understood now what she had meant. Humanity was not asking to be heard. Humanity was measuring the galaxy. And the galaxy had failed to notice, until it was too late. In the human quarters, Zhao prepared to leave the citadel. We didn't win, Sanar said quietly. Zhao smiled, not proudly, but knowingly. No, she said. We introduced ourselves. She looked out at the stars. And now, she added, they'll never stop watching us. Only one thing remained. The question the Council did not ask. What happens when humanity decides the silence is no longer necessary? The return journey from the Citadel of Voices was quiet. Not the chosen silence of demonstration. Not the heavy silence of tension. This was different. This was reflection. Human ships peeled away from the Citadel in organized streams, their drives flaring one by one as they jumped back toward human space. Millions of people returned to their worlds without parades, without speeches, without even certainty about what came next. They had not won territory. They had not gained protection. They had gained something far rarer. Space. On Earth, the sun rose over cities that looked unchanged. Traffic moved. Markets opened. Children went to school. And yet, something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in human history, humanity knew it was not alone, and that the galaxy was watching. Aaron Hale stood on the balcony of the Geneva Response Center, overlooking Lake Geneva. The water was calm, deceptively peaceful. We should be celebrating, a junior analyst said behind him. Aaron shook his head. Celebration comes after certainty. Ambassador Zhao joined him, hands clasped behind her back. The Concord expected us to chase acceptance, she said. They were prepared for noise. Aaron glanced at her. But not for restraint. Exactly. She looked out at the water. Restraint scares empires more than aggression, she continued. Aggression can be predicted. Controlled. Answered. Silence. Could not. Across the galaxy, the consequences began almost immediately. A minor species in the outer spiral refused a trade restriction for the first time in its history. A border conflict between two Concord members paused, not because of intervention, but because both sides began asking the same question. What would humans do? No one knew. And that uncertainty spread faster than fear. High Arbiter Threxial received the reports with growing unease. The Concorde had maintained stability for thousands of years through balance and bureaucracy. It was not designed to adapt quickly. Humanity was. They didn't break the system, Threxiel said to the archivist. They revealed its weakness. The system relies on enforced order, the archivist replied. Humans rely on voluntary alignment. Threxiel's voice was quiet. Which is stronger? The archivist did not answer. 3 months after the trial of standing, the Concorde issued another transmission to Earth. This one was different. It did not summon. It did not command. It asked. Request. Human observers for joint crisis evaluation. A star system near the galactic core had destabilized. A failing stellar engine. A problem even Concorde technology could not solve without devastating collateral damage. They wanted human input. Not human technology. Human thinking. The message rippled through human space. Aaron read it twice, then looked at Zhao. They're testing us. Zhao nodded. Good. The human response team was small. No armies. No fleets. Just engineers, sociologists, medics, logistics planners. Problem solvers. They arrived at the crisis system to find Concorde forces locked in endless debate. Risk calculations stacked upon risk calculations, no one willing to make the first move. The humans listened. They observed. Then they spoke. Not with authority. With coordination. They proposed a solution that wasn't elegant, but it worked. 1,000 small actions, executed simultaneously by independent teams, sharing responsibility instead of centralizing it. Risk distributed. Failure absorbed. Success shared. The star stabilized. The system survived. The Concorde watched in stunned silence.
TH 属于
High Arbiter Threxiel reviewed the outcome alone. No human claimed credit. No human demanded recognition. They solved the problem, and stepped back. They don't seek control, he realized. They seek participation. The thought was terrifying. And hopeful. Back on Earth, Zhao addressed a small assembly. No broadcast, no spectacle. Humanity, she said, has been noticed. She let the words settle. But being noticed is not our goal. She looked at the gathered faces. Our goal is to remain ourselves, curious, stubborn, flawed, and capable of choosing unity when it matters. She paused. The silence was our first message. A faint smile touched her lips. It will not be our last. Somewhere deep in the Concorde's archives, an ancient file updated itself. A Primarch-era designation, unused for millennia, activated once more. Classification. Coordinator species. Status. Emerging. The galaxy did not yet understand what that meant. But it would. Because humanity had finally spoken. Not with words. But with action. And the stars were listening. The end.